Welcome to Paradigm Playbook, the podcast on the business of sports. With 50 plus years of experience, Steve Cook shares insights weekly, featuring top playmakers shaping the industry. Get ready to script your next play. Now, here's your host.
Good morning and welcome to Paradigm Playbook. I'm your host, Steve Cook, alongside Lisa Mitzel. I'm excited about digging into this week's conversation. I don't know a lot about Lisa, but I'll tell you brief what I know. She's been a champion gymnast at every level. I recall first seeing Lisa as a junior Olympian with a lot of success there. And then, as far as I know, was a big part of the Utah run of, I want to say, 5 consecutive championships. Maybe I'm wrong there. Anyway, so Lisa, welcome onto the podcast.
Steve, I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you so much. I think we're going to have a great conversation.
Let's start with you introducing yourself. How would you like everyone to know you?
I've been in the gymnastics world for a long time. I'm one of 7 kids. I'm number 3. I love kids. I love family. I love cooperation, collaboration. You know, my journey started as a gymnast in the sports world, although I was also climbing trees and kicking balls and hopping fences. I was a true tomboy. Went all the way up through all the levels, went through some injuries, and I was an elite gymnast. And college, you mentioned University of Utah. They had a run of 6 national championships, so you were close.
Sorry.
That's okay. They when I got there as a freshman, they were 2-time. They were back-to-back champions, and then I was on the next 4 national championship teams.
So was Greg your coach?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greg Marsden is well known in the gymnastic circles, so a lot of my audience will know Greg.
Yes. What an incredible time in my life. I learned so much. Anyway, after college, I then was offered a coaching job, and I got into coaching gymnastics. So I was a club coach for a number of years, and then I moved into coaching at Stanford University. I did choreography for colleges, and that sort of opened the door for people to then see me sort of as a college coach. And then I did that for 6 years, and a little bit of marriage and babies, and and then you were talking about transitioning. So from actually being an athlete and a coach to a business person. And
that's really interesting to me. Dig in.
Yeah. So in sports, people do private lessons, right? In the sport of gymnastics, there's choreography, which I also had been a professional dancer for a couple of years. So I had, at the age of 15, I started choreographing just on the side, just a little bit, right? But I was a very serious gymnast, so I didn't start a business when I was 15. But just the idea of being of service. And I think that when I was coaching, and especially at Stanford University, I was weaving in the mental skills that I had learned when I was an athlete. And I worked with 2 premier sports psychologists in the West, and that was Dr. Keith Henshin, was at the University of Utah, and Dr. Ken Ravizza, who was previously at Cal State Fullerton. He was a professor there. And both of them heavily influenced me because they truly helped me overcome very serious issues and learn how to use mindsets and tools. When you have tools, when you have something to give and share, that's the beginning.
Okay.
That is the beginning. Oh, I could teach this. I could share this. I could advise on this, right? That, to me, that is the foundation for starting your own business. And when I came out of coaching at Stanford, I had been surrounded by incredible Olympic coaches and world champion coaches and all kinds of just incredible human beings that inspired me to just continue to learn and expand myself. And so all of these influences, from the sport to the psychology to just incredible wisdom, right, led me into wanting to be of service. And I also went back to school and got a master's degree in writing. I have an MFA in writing. And then that's what led me to writing my books. So I wrote and published a couple books. Number 3 is coming at some point in time. I want to do that. I really felt like I was developing an intellectual mind through all those years, through my 30s, through my 40s, writing the books and having the analytical mind of how I want to serve people, how I want to advise people, how I want to teach, and what I have to give. And so to me, those were the early influences that shaped the way that I started thinking about having my own business. And then one day, this was the kicker. One of my daughter's high school friends was on a track team, and the dad called me up, and he knew a lot of my sports background. And he said, "Hey, Lisa, are you working with athletes?" And at the time, I had just done a TED talk. I had just done a TEDx talk, and they knew about that. My knee-jerk reaction was, "Why, yes, I am." Mm-hmm. And I said, "I have business cards." I didn't have them yet. I ordered them right afterwards.
That's great.
So you also might find that with people, maybe like yourself, certainly like me, is that we take little risks, right? And I already had the vision and the desire to give and teach and share. And so I was excited that he asked me that question. And sure enough, she was struggling. She was a 15-year-old track athlete. She wanted to run in college. She was having consistent injury problems, like continual injury problems, and her confidence was in the toilet. And within a few months, the injuries all started going away. Her confidence went up. 2.5 years later, she was going to Duke. I think that is where she went to and got a scholarship. Wow. So yeah, I mean, that almost gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Yeah. Like, I got to be part of that. Like, it wasn't because of me. I just got to be part of that journey, right? Yeah. So that makes you motivated.
One of the things, and this brings to mind, is retention. And how to keep kids in the program or keep kids in the sport, whatever the sport. I run a facility that's built around baseball. Baseball has a unique thing because the game dramatically changes at age 13. All the dimensions, all the things, the equipment, everything changes at 13. And oddly enough, that's pretty much when boys start changing as well. So it's very difficult. And 70% of the kids who try baseball quit before they're 13. So it became my mission to help kids play on the big field. That's the only. I wasn't getting them scholarships. I wasn't doing any of this. So, and I tell that whole story because I think what you're offering is useful at all levels. So do you want to hit on, how we can help retention by incorporating some of your ideas?
That's a fabulous direction to go in. Let me clarify first that I do have 2 businesses. Okay. And yes, I am nuts. The coach side of me, I coach athletes one-on-one almost every day in mental training. Okay, so they're learning the sports psychology tools. I also have gradually, the last probably 7 years, been integrating what I would consider mental health practices, because these kids are often, and you said the word stressed, these kids are often extremely stressed and their confidence is very low. And then that goes into hopelessness, which then can easily go into depression. So I got a certificate in mental health first aid, and I can talk about that more later if we want, but it really is so important that all of us, for retention, that we have this broader view of how we are being of service to not just the child, not just the family, but the community. And when you have that kind of mindset, it's like every drop of water that goes in a glass is that it makes a full glass of beautiful, translucent, maybe even sparkling water. We want every drop of our teaching, our communication, everything that goes into working with this child creates a wonderful community. So my one business is coaching. The other one is Zen Tiger Mind. And Zen Tiger Mind is sort of a branching off of the mental skills and mental health. And we're putting it into, I created the Mental Power Station, which is 4 little yoga mats that are instructional and have cute little animals on them. This is a physical station with mental exercises. So for instance, in the sport of gymnastics, we're going to do vault, we're going to do bars, we're going to take a few minutes at the mental power station, and then we're going to go to floor, whatever. Well, you can do it at the beginning of an event. You can do it at the end of practice. There's all kinds of ways to use the mental power station. And the 4 major categories of that is breathe and relax, positive self-talk, visualize so that you can see clearly in your mind what you want to do, and overcome nerves, fear, and mental blocks. So that's the 4. And then we're doing what I would call e-curriculum, right? This is the educational aspect. I just launched, Zen Tiger Mind just launched a new exercise program called Resilience. We can talk about that more. I want to promote that. And in terms of retention, offering the balance of the physical and the mental is so important. In sports, we also might talk about sports nutrition, right? And other aspects of training. But we're in an era right now, currently, where mental health, it is a crisis in our country in particular.
This is a fascinating, and we can go on for quite a while on this, but familiar with the book, The Anxious Generation?
Yes.
So I'm just 3/4 the way through that book, and I'm so disturbed. At some of the challenges that kids are facing now. I think the advantage, we have a lot of advantages being in the child activity center business, in that we have their attention, maybe only for an hour a week, but we do have their attention. And there's so much we can do there. If part of what we're offering is not addressing, the mental side of whatever the sport is, or whatever the activity is, or whatever's on that child's mind, then we're missing an opportunity. One, we've got them to put their phones down for an hour, and now we have their attention. So I think there's so much in there. And it's interesting when you gave your 4 things. Are you a Tony Robbins person?
I'm not.
Okay. So I grew up on Tony Robbins. He's the one who changed my life early on, but he talks about those 4 things. So it's very interesting. So we talk a lot of times about building a culture around your business and making the staff that's who you have to convince first. That's who you have to get on board, and then making them spread the word about what you're doing. What would be a good step to get a staff thinking about the mental side of the sport?
Let me just say a quick amen to educating the staff. And I don't mean it in a way that, shaking our fingers like you need to learn this. This is not a you need. Not, at least not for me. I mean, overall, because we are in a mental health crisis, because we are post-COVID, because there's lots of wars and, government issues and all things that are affecting parents in particular, and kids are parrots. Kids learn exactly what their parents are saying. Kids get the energy that their parents are feeling, right? This is an anxious nation. And you mentioned The Anxious Generation, which is a book. There is a documentary called The Anxious Nation.
Oh, okay.
Great. And I would 1,000% highly recommend that. I mean, it just blew me away. And it gives personal examples and little intimate stories of families and children going through difficulty. And it reflects exactly what's going on in the world. I highly recommend it. Anxious Nation. But staff, they are the bridge. And that's what I'm actually calling, or at least describing my resilience program with Zen Tiger Mind, is it's a bridge. I've just been to a couple gyms lately, gymnastic clubs, and I actually am working with staff and the kids. And in one gym, which I love working with the parents as well and doing parent seminars. And the staff there, I'm trying to think of the 3 things they said. Maybe I have it written down here. Oh, yes. So 3 things they said to me yesterday, and these are they're coaching competitive kids, right? They are saying that teenagers were acting somewhat aloof, disconnected, and not able to actually say, I'm afraid of doing this. Like if there's a skill, if there's a challenge and it's actually very hard, you can see on their face, you can see in their body language, they're resisting. It was very, very hard for anybody to say, yeah, I'm afraid. And so getting in touch with emotion is very important for us to be able to talk about. And, when you're right there in the gym on the equipment in the heat of the moment, that's not always the best place to start talking about your emotion. So I really teach about being proactive and not just being reactive, like in a moment, this kid is struggling. We do want to have the tools, but we want to plant those seeds in advance. So having trouble identifying emotions, talking about emotions, and lacking motivation. Now, these were, I think, preteens and teenagers. For younger kids, I mean, I have actually a list of issues in child activity centers today. And there's a whole very real, very vivid list, and child behavior and developmental issues. And they're saying that today in our current culture that a lot of kids are delayed in their development. A lot of kids are experiencing more anxiety these days and lots of behavioral issues. So the coaches in our coach clinic yesterday, they were saying, well, I'm not a therapist. I don't know how to do this. All of a sudden they're acting this way, or they're trying to be kind. They're trying to ask them questions, but we have to give them the tools in advance, because the coaches are feeling stuck, right? They're feeling like, I don't know how to help this child. So that's why when we're talking about whether it's retention, good business practice, making sure that you're teaching all the skills so that your kids are having success. The mental and emotional side is something that you want to include and integrate in your culture. You want to have, and that's why I put out this exercise program called Resilience. I might say that 50 times today.
Yeah. Sure.
Is that these are short little 5-minute exercise. Oh, he's got it. Very nice. Oh, it's made for small devices. So when you do print it out, which you can.
I'm old. We print.
There we go. Yeah, no, it's all good. But for our audience, anybody who has an iPad or, an iPhone or some kind of smaller device, it's absolutely made for your small device. So 44 exercises, little 5-minute, maybe 10 minutes for some exercises, to integrate into your lesson plan. And whether that's once a week, twice a week, ideally for especially teen kids, they're training 4 and 5 days a week. 4 days a week would be great, but you have the flexibility to use it as you like. And there's different categories of positivity and self-kindness, turn negative to positive, all kinds of exercises, that self-compassion practice. What is self-compassion? I mean, you and I, and probably a lot of the audience, we didn't grow up saying, okay, be kind to yourself. We didn't grow up saying anything about mental health. And especially in sports, we want kids to be resilient, right? But one of the key foundational tools is practicing self-compassion. So we were doing that yesterday, and even the coaches were doing it. And we talked about some other things like autonomy. With kids today, we need to use an approach that allows them to learn how to be in charge of themselves, to listen to their own voice, and to make their own decisions. That doesn't mean give away all your power. That means you become a partner with the kids. And this is very nuanced. Yeah. And I know a lot of people were in the baby stages of integrating this type of curriculum and activities, but it actually will boost your business. It will.
One of the metrics that I teach all of my clients and all the clubs, everybody that listens, is that to understand customer lifetime value. So if you bring someone into your program at 3 and they leave for more than 6 months at any given time, that's they leave at 7, came in at 3, your customer lifetime value is 4. So we track that all the time. The second question I ask is, why did they leave? And 9 times out of 10, the business owner can't answer that. And it's hard to get on a survey. So then I always say, well, so that rolls back to culture, because if you're running the business properly, somebody on staff should know that person well enough that they can tell you why they left. My granddaughter tried gymnastics and ended up quitting. And I ran into the club owner, just because I know most of the club owners in the country. And they say, why didn't, your granddaughter stop coming? And honest to God, the answer was she was pressured too much to do more. She loved it 1 day a week, but she also plays volleyball and field hockey, and she loved gymnastics, but she loved it 1 day a week. And so somebody didn't take the time to know her well enough. In baseball, you talked about, the fear aspect, and I teach baseball to 4-year-olds. So I understand. And the one thing that every child is afraid of is the ball. It's going to hit you when it's pitched. When it comes rolling at you, it's going to bounce up, hit you in the nose. In my lessons, we deal with that on a daily basis. And I tell stories about, I got hit in the nose and when I was 5 and I cried and everybody laughed at me, so I go through all the stories. So I'm guessing that having this as a discussion in a staff meeting, is that a good place to start? Where would you start with? Like, let's assume you're not there and you're giving advice to a business owner that has a weekly staff meeting. How do you broach the topic?
So in the sports and youth activity business, people are generally in it to coach the physical body and to have great performance and to win. That's typically, those are the two things, right? I mean, with the rec kids, the younger kids that aren't competitive yet, The physical body is very important. What are they doing with their body? What are they learning? How are they progressing, right? And you celebrate the physical. That's the achievements, the milestones. And then the other part is winning and being competitive. So you want to tap into coaches who are motivated to do things and learn things to improve the physical performance and the competitive results. That starts with mental training. Okay, sports psychology. So once you even just start with anything having to do with thoughts and feelings, it's you direct it as the owner, the club owner, the manager, and you want to get your staff on board. You start with, okay, this is scientifically proven to help them pitch the ball better or hit the ball better, right? This is scientifically proven, this skill of visualizing, okay, when they practice it, when you make the time, for 3 minutes before you all go to balance beam, of getting calm, being straight on the beam, straight arms in your handstands, and you visualize it. And I break this down to the minutia, to, very, very basic visualizing exercises, which I have been doing with kids with this new resilience program. They love it. And all of them raise their hand saying that they're starting to see it better. And then we do another skill and visualize that. And I go, did the previous exercise help you with that one? And they say, yes. When we take time to invest, even 5 to 10 minutes in some of these mental exercises for the physical body, for performance, now we're going inward. We're going into the mind. We're going into the spirit of the child, right? And then that's when they start to be more in tune with themselves. Sport is largely listening to the coach. What do I have to do? What about the equipment? Who's taking a turn? Who, and getting it's the physical, and what is my coach saying about that? Oh, I have to do better. They're listening to other people. They're seeing other things. They're distracted from themselves.
At what age can you start discussing this with a child? And I mean, I know you got the background in gymnastics, but thinking of all sports, let's say that a ballet, we have a 6-year-old that's taking ballet lessons. Is it too early to start talking about the mental side? No, it's not too early. Okay,
not too early.
So I know there's not too late. Do you know who Jason Selk is?
That sounds very familiar. Yes, I have heard of him.
Jason Selk wrote a book called Relentless Solution Focus, and he was the mental coach for the St. Louis Cardinals. They won 2 world championships when he was their mental coach, but he was originally a gymnastic coach. So I had a great conversation with him, just saying, okay, what came from gymnastics? And this is for all my gymnastic friends that are listening. He said, because of the difficulty of the sport, it's just magnified much more in gymnastics. One, there's more fear than anybody lets on, and there's more self-doubt, and it can manifest itself any place. I mean, we've all seen, we all have different names for it, but an Olympian can just lose it at any moment. We've seen this recently. And it's like, you're saying they can be coached through this if it becomes part of their regular coaching.
Yes.
What were the names of your books, and how do they apply? Do they apply to this, or?
Both. You can get them on Amazon, or you can go to my website, Focused and on Fire: The Athlete's Guide to Mental Training and Kicking Butt.
Okay. So would that be a good starting point for a staff meeting? I'm in favor of getting your staff meeting and running a book club with your staff meeting.
Yes.
So could we get them started if we got a few copies of the book and just said, okay, we're going to pass this book around, we're all going to read it, and then we're going to discuss this? Good start?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. And just for those of you who are not big readers, I was not a big reader as a child. And I wanted to make it visually entertaining. So there are over 100 illustrations. So it should be, fun to read. And even I have 7 and 8-year-old kids with the parent, even reading a couple paragraphs with the illustrations right there. So it should be, your friend. The book is your friend. And there's mental skills, the 6 mental skills. There's real stories of me working with athletes and my mom helping me and things. And then there's exercises. So narrative, stories, tools, exercises, it's a great book. I've had teams make it their team book for the year. The second book is sort of a partner book with it, and it's called Focused and Inspired: Keeping Our Athletes Safe in a Win at All Costs World. The first chapter does touch on safety, especially it mentions grooming and some of these things because of this recent, in the last, 6 years or so, 7 years, just the world waking up and athletes speaking out about pressure and verbal abuse and emotional abuse and sexual abuse in sports. So the first chapter does say a little bit about how we can talk to kids, how we can bring it up and make safety part of your culture in terms of how you're feeling and how they can talk. And then the whole rest of the book is all kinds of ways that we can motivate children, we can connect with children, we can calm ourselves, we can notice as a coach, what are my signs of stress? And so it's sort of it goes more into kind of a overview of how we can coach kids better. It's an excellent book, I think, but those are the two books.
Awesome. And if I promise not to tell anyone, can you tell me what the third book is?
Well, that's going to be a surprise.
Okay. I'll tell you, but I'll have to kill you. So as I expected, we're going to have to put this on pause now, and we'll circle back and get you back on the podcast. But before we sign off, if someone wants to reach out to you directly, can you give them a website, an email or something so they could reach you directly?
Yes. So my company is Zen Tiger Mind. And that's the email. That's the website is zentigermind.com. And you can contact me through there. The email is zentigermind@gmail.com. I get all those emails. And my coaching, if you are looking for any kind of mental training, if you as a coach want any kind of consulting, you can also reach me at heymitz@gmail.com. My website is my name, lisamitzel.com. So honored to be on your show today, Steve, and everybody out there listening. Lots of positive energy, good vibes. I'm here to serve. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so it's so exciting. And we're all in this because we have a purpose, and our purpose is taking care of the kids in our lives. So thank you for everything you've done for the sport, for the kids. For me, I'm going to take the time to read the books, and then next time we're going to dig in a little bit deeper. And
that would be great.
You'll see. But Lisa, thank you so much for being on the air with me. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Everybody, make it a great day.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to Paradigm Playbook. Explore more at ParadigmPlaybook.com. Want to be a playmaker? Contact StephenJCook.com. Share this episode to spread the word about sports industry opportunities. See you next week.